Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to the Marcy's Magic Podcast, where I, Marcy, your host, will be talking to you all about your spiritual evolution, God, love, and so much more. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how individualism is killing your spirituality in ways that you're probably not even noticing. First of all, can we peep this tiny little microphone? I ordered it because I wanted to have a little prop when I'm creating reels for Instagram and whatever else. And 4 of them came, so I've got 4 of these tiny little microphones, and I've decided I'm going to have it as an accessory while I'm doing my podcasts too, until I decide that I want a big microphone. But for now, this is how we're going to rock. So I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a while, and on the day of the release of this episode is also when I'm starting a free Telegram group called the Chakra Initiations, which is something that came to me very intuitively, because I feel like a lot of us are experiencing a new era of being where we're letting go of focusing just on spiritual ascension, and we're getting deeper into our bodies, connecting deeper into the vessel for that grounded spirituality. This is what's been coming to me when I've been thinking about various names and ways of phrasing it. It's that grounded spirituality that's been coming through over and over and over. So I thought that recording this episode in line with the first chakra initiation would go really hand in hand together. So I'm just going to dive straight in. There's so many thoughts that I have about this topic. So we, of course, live in a very individualistic society, right? We are very empowered nowadays. We focus on improving ourselves, on enhancing our self-beliefs, and not settling for anything less than we deserve. We're all about boundaries and continued development, and that's great to an extent, because I really feel that as a society, oh my god, we have lost touch with the importance of community. So I live in the UK right now, and I really see it. I really see it in the people who are the ones who strive for the most abundance. So, for example, I'm in the coaching industry. I don't count myself as a coach, but I do interact with a lot of coaches, and it's something that I have done. Like, I did coach for sort of the first year and a half of my business. So, I'm surrounded. I'm in the industry. And I do see that there's a lot of people who do strive for, being top coaches, top business owners, top CEOs. And all of that individualism has created a huge disconnect from their community. And this is not just a problem within the coaching industry. This is a problem worldwide. It's a problem country-wise. It is very seen in the UK with a rise of mental health awareness and everyone being encouraged to go to therapy, and it's all very person-centered, which is great, absolutely, but it does take out the important element of community. So what I'm going to begin with is I'm going to, first of all, identify the problems, talk to you about the issues that I feel we're facing as a society, as humanity, in this individualistic approach, especially to spiritualism. And then I'm going to explore more around ways to work around it. So there was a video that I watched online the other day, and it was this young reporter, probably not too much older or younger than me, asking this elderly lady about whether she had the injections for, the big old virus that went around. I'm trying to not use the words purely for algorithm reasons. And she was like, yeah, of course I did. That's what was recommended. And this reporter was all like, well, have you not stopped to think about it? Like, trying to get her to exercise her free will, trying to get her to think about what she's putting in her body, and basically implying that we'll live in an era of where there's so much information that's available for us, we should be making more informed decisions. And this lady was really taken aback and was saying how, well, that's just what they were saying. So she was just going along with the guidelines. And what's really annoying about the post I saw was that it was posted from like the reporter and the company, and they were all like encouraging that basically people like this elderly lady, they should be using their brain more, essentially. And it really rubbed me the wrong way, right? Because I genuinely do not care what you think about vaccinations. Like, let's put that aside, right? But this is exactly this individualism in action, where you think you're this empowered being, this person who has all this knowledge, all this access to information, and you're making the most of it, which actually feeds into your ego. I see this so much in the online industry, where people do think that because they do the research, they then have the right to go and try to change other people's minds. And like, of course, if you're really passionate about something and you think that someone, let's say in your family or your friends or whatever, is doing something that is incredibly harmful to the health, yes, you can go and inform them. But a lot of people take on this responsibility that they have taken on themselves, that is coming from a spiritual ego, where they think they've got the right to go and actually change what the person is thinking and saying. And that is killing your spirit. It is causing a further disconnect between you and your tribe, because you're not the hero that you think you are. You don't need to go and save anyone else. You're meant to try to love them as best as you can with whatever they like, right? And I'm not talking here about really extreme cases of abuse, neglect, whatever. I'm talking about everyday interactions, such as this example of the reporter asking this lady about the vaccinations. Because, again, it really does not matter what you think about the vaccinations. It's the fact that he came in with this whole I know better agenda. I'm going to educate you. You need to change how you think. And that completely misses the context. And this is something that comes up for a lot of people that I work with when they're expressing grief that they're feeling towards the families. Because we come in with this agenda of, okay, well, I know better. They need to respect me more. They need to celebrate me more. They need to allow me to rest, yada yada. And it creates tension because the family members that you're trying to change are not open to what you're trying to tell them, to what you're trying to change in them. And of course it's going to create conflict, because why are you trying to change them? Why are you giving them information that they haven't asked for? Yes, you feel responsibility and you feel like it's coming from a place of love. I know full well that you think it's coming from a place of love because you want what's best for them and you want it to improve your relationship. But actually, it is ego driven because it assumes that you know the best, and it means that you're not accepting of the fact that maybe they're just not ready for it, or maybe that they don't want to. Full stop, period. So again, let's go back to the idea of context for this. So with this elderly lady, telling her that she should be using her brain more and using more critical thinking is, honestly, it's out of order. Absolutely out of order, because, like, think about how she grew up, right? I don't know how old she was. Maybe sort of late 60s, early 70s. Her life, even like, let's say you're 30 now, her first 30 years of her life are completely different to your 30 years. Think about the social element of it. Technology is, to a lot of elderly people, an alien concept. Yes, maybe there's a lot of elderly people now that do use technology, social media, and whatever. There's even some ones who are like really big on social media, but it's still missing the context. Because when I think about people like my parents, or people their age growing up in Poland, they would have been taught that they need to be cautious of what other people may think about them. So it was this element of fear and insecurity from the other people. Like, you were meant to uphold a certain standard, you were meant to not reveal certain things about yourself. And this is where the cultural context is super important, because if, let's say, you are someone who comes from a family, right? I'm going to use I'll use my family as an example for the ease of it. If I grew up in a family where, let's say, my elders did grow up with the attitude of like, okay, we need to, make sure we're not like embarrassing ourselves or whatever it is, why would I assume the role of the savior and the hero and think that actually I know what's best for them, when their context, their attitude is completely different? And I think this is something that's repeated quite often, is that every generation think that they are the savior, they know more. And I'm sure that this will be a similar case when I have children, that there will be things that they're like, no, mum, I know better about this. Like, trust me, this is going to happen every generation. But again, we have this beautiful thing called information, the era of the internet, so we can start to be a little bit more critical thinking about it. Especially right now, like if you're listening to this, you have this beautiful gift of becoming more accepting of the social context around these elements, because you are not the hero that you're trying so hard to be. The root chakra, which is the lowest chakra, it sits at your tailbone. It's concerned with safety, grounding, like very physical elements, your financial safety, general well-being. And something that is not often spoken about in the spiritual industry is that this chakra is also known as the tribal chakra. So the saying, all is one, all is connected, that sits in that chakra. And what this chakra represents is the obligation that we have towards other people, towards our tribes. It is to say that, yes, there's certain elements of your culture and the tribes that you take on unknowingly that sit within your energy, and they don't do you any good, because, yes, certain tribal attitudes, certain cultural contexts that we're taught are no longer relevant to us. But we do need to honor that energy. We do need to honor the impact that it's had on us and release it. If we're no longer resonant with it, that's absolutely fine. But release it from a place of gratitude that it has been passed down to you, from a place of love, from a place of, okay, I think this is the best, so here you go, here's this energy for you too. And then you get the choice whether you want to keep hold of it or whether you want to release it. But one thing to consider with this is that we're in such an time of empowerment, quotation marks, where we think that we don't need to be affected by the tribe, like we don't owe them, like you can just put boundaries with your grandma if she's saying something disrespectful, that we forget the influence that this actually has, and the fact that we are committed to our tribes. We were born, we were reincarnated into our families for a reason. And even if you don't have a good relationship with your family, actually, no one has it easy in a family. Yes, there is certain families that do work out, that they are very unproblematic and really well, but majority of people don't have that, because this is part of our soul contract. Something that we have to deal with in this reincarnation is managing these family dynamics and seeing your family as the people that you chose to do life with for your highest spiritual evolution. So it is not your role to try to change them and try to put boundaries with your grandma. My lovely friend Izzy, we always say this thing, like, you can't, that's literally just what we always say, that you can't put boundaries in with your grandma. And I mean, you could, but again, think about that context. Yes, you can express if maybe she's saying something disrespectful, that it's like borderline, I don't know, really triggering, really psychologically damaging. And this is not to take away the responsibility that each person has over their own behavior. But again, think about the context. Think about how you might be reacting and navigating if, let's say, you spent 70 years of your life being completely unaware of this, being completely, I want to say this, I mean, like, this frequency of love, spirituality, spiritual evolution, yada yada. You would also probably be quite closed off. You would also be less sensitive to certain things. There is pros and cons to a lot of things, and I do think that older generations, while a lot of them are more closed to emotions, to some of these ideas around God, energy work, and everything else. But I do think that they possess more of an ability to pay less attention to the deeper meanings of things, which means they're able to get on with it more. They're able to not hold on to this energy as deeply as we do. And this is something that our generation forgets about. And that's when the hero complex pops in, and we're like, I'm going to change my family, I'm going to put boundaries with my grandma because she has no idea of the impact of what she said. Yeah, no, she doesn't. She doesn't, because she grew up completely different from you. And when you move in from this egoistic space of, I need to tell her so she stops and I feel better and our relationship improves, she's not going to continue getting it, because your only role in this relationship is to accept her and see the context and see her for who she really is, to be present with her, to see all the influences, all the energetics that have made her the way that she is right now. Another thing that I want to talk about in individualism and spirituality is that this idea of empowerment and really being precious about your time and energy has made us really closed off from people. Yes, I already said that. But it impacts our interactions with people. And I have seen posts online previously from various coaches talking about the importance of being really boundaried, of not doing more than what your client paid for. And these things always really make me laugh, because it's so clear that you are not genuinely doing this for the service, you're doing it for just the money. And there's nothing wrong with doing it for the money, because essentially we need money to survive. But it makes me laugh just how flawed this approach is, because again, we should be living in tribes. We shouldn't be so disconnected. We should be in a position where if you think someone that you know could really answer a burning question that you have, that we should be feeling confident to message them and receive a response rather than being like, oh, sorry, you need to purchase my masterclass to answer all your responses. Like, it's just so wrong. Like, there was a moment a few months ago when my nervous system was wrecked. There's been a lot of things happening, and yeah, it was just wrecked. And I messaged a lovely friend of mine, Em Roberts. She's a really great somatic practitioner and a Pilates practitioner also. You can go check her out. And I was like, girl, my nervous system is a wreck. This is what I've been doing. These have been the outcomes. Am I missing something? Can you suggest something? And she has a membership, which you do have to pay for, but she sent me one of the meditations that she created for this membership. I'm getting shivers as I'm talking about this. And she was like, here you go. Like, for me, it was for free. And I was so grateful. And that I just think about this so often because I think I can't imagine not having these kind of connections in my life. And I do really want to normalize this. In the same way, recently, and one of my online friends has been going through a really tough times, and they made a little post requesting that someone gives them some kind of support, like any kind of energetic healing. And I knew, that's when I knew, I was like, okay, this is me. Like, I will be stepping up and supporting someone in my community because we are meant to be a tribe. We are meant to support one another. Like, all these gifts that are within you, all your knowledge, your passion, your energy healing abilities, whatever it is, it's not meant to be for you. You're not meant to just hoard all the knowledge and make it super exclusive. You're meant to share it with the world, because if you're evolving purely for yourself, it's all for nothing. Like, it may seem as an extreme, but if your only intention towards evolving and becoming this great, enlightened, abundant person is so that you get to hoard everything that you've learned and become, then it is pointless, because all is one. And all the energy that you have consumed in order to be who you are now, that has also had to come from somewhere. Your gifts are not yours to keep. And I'm not saying go out and do all this free work and whatever, but I'm saying be open to it, because we are meant to live as a community. And I really invite you to dive deeper into this for yourself, because I feel like, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're in the online industry, you will see so many posts telling you to be really boundaried, be like really, selective, don't give out too much of yourself unless it's like really valued and paid for. But sometimes the greatest payment that you can receive is gratitude. Because then, like, it annoys me when people are like, oh my god, you need to be fulfilling your mission, your destiny, your soul's purpose, but then they are closed to doing some work for free for someone in need. Like, that is not living your purpose, baby girl. That is spiritual immaturity. That is what it is. I remember when I was in uni and my granddad was seriously ill, and in the last months of his life, I was his carer. I had to do a lot of things, and I had also uni stresses, and there was also a lot of things happening for me, like mentally, things that I haven't processed yet. A lot of like what you call childhood trauma and whatever. And it was a very tough time, like horrible. It was horrible, right? And I've had people tell me, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, like this is really distressing you. You shouldn't be doing so much. And I was like, right, okay, so what? You tell me that my granddad has cancer. We brought him over to the UK to look after him, and I just shouldn't do it because I'm finding it difficult to cope with. It was blowing my mind. And I am Polish, yes, and I did live with my grandparents and my parents. It's quite it's a norm to be living in multi-generational households in Poland. So it blew my mind that I've had so many people telling me that I shouldn't be looking after my granddad. I was like, you are the problem, not the care that I'm giving for my granddad. And this is exactly how individualism is killing your evolution, because we have this idea that if something is causing us distress and that if we're sacrificing ourselves, then we shouldn't be doing this. But sacrifice is not a bad thing. Sacrifice is part of the process. That is sometimes what you just need to give. And I'm trying to think of any other way to get it across to you. Something maybe meaningful and metaphorical, but no, I'm not going to cut around it. The ultimate truth is that sometimes you do need to sacrifice in the name of supporting your community, in the name of supporting your tribe. Your purpose is not to just look after yourself and feel empowered and confident and be boundaried. No, again, your energy is not yours to keep. In the same way that your family sacrificed to bring you up, there's moments where you have to make that sacrifice and do things for them. Again, I'm not referring to extreme cases where there's been like emotional, psychological, even physical abuse, but there is context needed across all of this. And actually, a lot of the empowerment community is stemming from spiritually immature energy that is grounded in the ego, which is all about me, and not the soul that actually wants to authentically fulfill its purpose. And if you think about the purpose, it's never just about you, is it? Like, I know one of my purposes is to help enlighten people. So who am I? I can't do my purpose without other people, and neither can you. And that is what I really want you to get into your head, is that you are meant to be connected to other people. Sometimes you are meant to overgive and sacrifice, because that's just part of the purpose. That's part of fulfilling the purpose. And another thing that I want to talk about that's related to spiritual immaturity is I've got beef with manifestation, right? I believe it wholeheartedly. I believe in all the laws of the universe. This is not beef with the actual universe itself, but this is beef with people who have made manifestation a trend. Because, again, this is linking to spiritual immaturity, where a lot of people in the online industry are now like, I'm going to manifest this. They think they have these big desires of being rich, being booked out, being everything, like doing the least while having the most. And there's nothing wrong with having those desires, but it just makes me laugh because I've seen more and more people realize that actually these weren't their desires, it's just what they thought they need to be desiring. So that's what they were working towards, because who wouldn't want the most while doing the least? So a lot of people quite automatically assume that they want those things too. And I've seen a lot of people reduce the prices over these last months because they're realizing that this whole idea of manifesting abundance and everything else has just gone too far. And my issue with it is that it is very ego driven, because all it focuses on is the future. And yes, I know that there's so many manifestation coaches that will teach you all the tricks, and a lot of it is to do with detachment, living in the present, being grateful for what's right here, right now. But when you're super focused on manifestation, even if you do regularly detach and get on with your own day, you are still coming back to the manifestation. You are still coming back to thinking about how you need to improve your future. And what that means is that you are blocking out God's ability to speak to you because you're just focused on what you think you want. And those people that I've seen drop in the prices over these last months, I know it's because they have made the space to actually deeply consider what they intuitively want. So it's been a process of co-creation of their desires, but being open to how God wants them to do it. And I deeply believe that there needs to be a balance for a lot of us. To me, spiritual maturity is about co-creation with God. So this means I have my desires and they are genuinely mine. They are not based on what the online space tells me I should be desiring. And I work towards it, but ultimately I follow my intuition. I stay open to the fact that God may want to redirect me, and if God thinks that actually these things that I'm desiring are not in my best interest, I will follow that instead of assuming that I know what's best for me. Because sometimes you don't know what's best for you. You think you do, but then you try it and you're like, you know what, actually, it's not this. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I think trial and error is important, and every experience does still teach you things, and every redirection does bring you back to the most aligned place. It all fits. Yes, all part of spiritual evolution, absolutely not discrediting that. But what I'm saying is that there does need to be an element of discernment and element of being humble to open yourself up to the fact that when you're moving purely from a place of desire, it can often be influenced by just the ego completely shutting out your heart's and your soul's opportunities to actually suggest that, you know what, I think what we really want is something else. And I do think that the manifestation community is deeply rooted in individualism, because it just focuses on doing things more, and it forgets about the fact that real spirituality, real spiritual maturity is about co-creation. So I'm gonna leave you here. Please let me know what you thought. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll speak to you soon.